Mother and her unborn baby killed in a heinous murder.
And we do want to warn you here, some of the details of this are just really graphic and difficult to hear.
January 17th, 2025, Madison County Courtroom, Alton, Illinois. The courtroom was heavy with anticipation. Nearly 3 years of waiting had led to this moment. Deundrea Holloway stood before Judge Sarah Smith. His expression was blank. No tears, no remorse, just silence. Judge Smith delivered the sentence. 60 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections, 30 years for the murder of Liese Dodd, 30 years for the intentional homicide of her unborn child. Welcome to Caught in the Web True Crime Stories. Kindly support us by subscribing to this channel and turn the notification icon. Holloway is currently 26 years old. With Illinois requiring inmates to serve at least 85% of their sentence for violent crimes, he'll serve a minimum of 51 years. That makes him 77 at the earliest possible release date, but he's eligible for parole review at 60 years when he'll be 86. But to understand the courtroom in January 2025, we need to go back to a summer day in 2022 when a mother's worst fears became reality. June 9th, 2022. Alton, Illinois. Heidi Noel tried calling her daughter that morning. No answer. She texted, nothing. She called again. For most 22-year-olds, this wouldn't be unusual. But Liese wasn't most 22-year-olds. She was nearly 8 months pregnant, due in late July, and she and her mother talked regularly, especially now, with the baby coming soon. The silence felt wrong. Heidi drove to Liese's apartment on the east side of Alton, a modest unit that represented her daughter's fresh start. Liese had recently moved in, determined to create a stable home for herself and her baby girl. The nursery was taking shape. Baby clothes were folded in drawers. A crib waited to be assembled. When Heidi arrived and found the door unlocked, she called out for Liese. No response. She stepped inside. What she found in those next moments would fracture her world permanently. She immediately called 911.
911 with the address.
Yeah. Hi. Listen.
What's going on?
My girlfriend's daughter is killed. Yeah.
What's going on there?
My daughter's, he chopped her head off.
Her voice breaking as she tried to explain what she was seeing. Alton police arrived within minutes. The scene was secured. The Major Case Squad, a regional investigative unit activated for the most serious crimes, was called in immediately. Neighbors began emerging from their apartments, drawn by the growing police presence. Yellow tape went up. Detectives moved in and out. News crews arrived. One neighbor who asked to remain anonymous later recalled seeing Heidi outside, held up by officers, unable to stand on her own. You could hear it in her cries, the neighbor said. It wasn't just grief. It was the sound of someone's entire world ending. By law enforcement standards, the investigation moved with remarkable speed. Within hours, detectives had identified a suspect, Deundrea Holloway, Liese's on and off boyfriend of 2 years. That same day, police traveled 30 miles north to Gillespie, where Holloway was already in custody on unrelated charges. He was arrested for the murders of Liese Dodd and her unborn daughter. The swift arrest suggested something crucial to investigators. They had solid evidence, likely witnesses, and a clear suspect who hadn't fled. This appeared to be an open and shut case. The community was in shock. Vigils were planned. Friends posted tributes on social media. A GoFundMe was established to help Heidi with funeral expenses and the overwhelming costs of sudden tragedy. Before we continue with the legal complexities, we need to understand who Liese Dodd was. Not as a statistic, not as a victim, but as a young woman building her life. At 22, Liese was at a transitional point that many young adults experience. She'd moved into her own apartment, a significant step toward independence. She was working. She was preparing for motherhood on her own terms. The baby she was carrying wasn't Deundrea Holloway's child. That detail is important because it speaks to where Liese was mentally and emotionally. She was moving forward with her life, preparing to be a single mother, building something new. Her relationship with Holloway had been tumultuous. 2 years of on and off dynamics, breakups and reconciliations, attempts to make it work followed by realizations that it couldn't. Heidi, her mother, was aware there had been domestic violence. She'd seen the warning signs, had conversations with her daughter, worried about her safety. But Liese was trying. She was building distance. She'd moved to her own place. She was focused on her pregnancy and preparing for her daughter's arrival in July. Just days before her death, Heidi had sent out baby shower invitations. The party was planned for late June. Friends were excited. There would be games, gifts, cake, and celebration of new life. Those invitations were still in mailboxes when Liese died. Friends who were planning to celebrate with her found themselves planning memorial services instead. In Liese's apartment, investigators found the beginnings of a nursery. Baby clothes, sizes newborn through 6 months, diapers, a changing pad, bottles, a bouncer seat still in its box. There was a list on the refrigerator, things she still needed to get before the baby came. A car seat, more onesies, receiving blankets, items that would now never be used. Her due date was July 30th, 2022. She was 7 months and 3 weeks pregnant when she died. Her daughter was viable, fully formed, just weeks from being able to survive outside the womb. Nothing Liese did or didn't do justified what Holloway chose to do. This was his choice, his violence, his crime. And while we may never know exactly what triggered that specific day's brutality, we know the underlying cause. A man who believed he had the right to control another person's life, and when he lost that control, he chose to end it. What happened next is difficult to discuss, but it's important we don't sanitize the reality of domestic violence homicides. Based on the charges filed and the crime scene evidence, we can piece together a likely scenario. Though again, this is speculation based on available facts, not confirmed details. Holloway was inside Liese's apartment. Whether she let him in, whether he had a key from their previous relationship, or whether he forced entry, we don't know. What we know is that Liese was decapitated. This type of violence requires planning or extreme rage, or both. It's not something that happens accidentally or in a brief moment of anger. The tools required for decapitation would have been brought to the scene or found within the apartment. This suggests either premeditation, he came prepared to commit extreme violence, or that once the violence began, he made a conscious decision to continue to this horrific conclusion. After killing Liese and her unborn daughter, Holloway attempted to conceal what he'd done. Her head was placed in a garbage bin outside the apartment building. He was also charged with dismembering a human body and concealment of a homicidal death, which tells us he took deliberate steps to hide evidence. Then he fled. He took Liese's vehicle and drove roughly 30 miles to Gillespie, where he was later arrested during an unrelated theft investigation. These are conclusions drawn from the charges filed, the crime scene as described by law enforcement, and patterns typical in domestic violence homicides. The actual sequence of events, what was said, how long the violence lasted, whether Liese had any opportunity to defend herself or escape, these details remain known only to Holloway, and he has never offered an explanation. No apology, no statement of remorse, nothing. The exact sequence of events on June 9th, 2022 has never been fully disclosed. What triggered the violence that day remains between Holloway and whatever conscience he may have. But we can look at the context and make educated assessments based on what we know about domestic violence patterns. Liese was 8 months pregnant with another man's child. For abusers, pregnancy by another partner and a victim's attempt to leave represent the ultimate loss of control. Statistics show us that domestic violence often escalates during pregnancy, and the most dangerous time for a victim is when they try to leave the relationship. It's possible, and we emphasize possible, that Holloway came to Liese's apartment that day. Maybe he wanted to talk. Maybe he was angry about the pregnancy. Maybe he couldn't accept that she was moving on. We simply don't know what words were exchanged, if any. What we do know is that Heidi Noel maintained daily contact with her daughter, specifically because she was aware of the domestic violence in the relationship. The Telegraph liaison wasn't naive about the danger. She was trying to protect herself by maintaining distance and keeping her mother informed. Shortly after his arrest, Holloway's defense attorneys raised questions about his mental competency. Could he understand the charges against him? Could he meaningfully assist in his own defense? These aren't trivial questions. The Constitution guarantees defendants the right to a fair trial, which includes being mentally capable of participating in their defense. Courts take competency seriously, as they should. Holloway was evaluated by mental health professionals. The initial finding, he was not competent to stand trial. He was ordered to undergo treatment at a state facility with the goal of restoring competency. For Heidi and the family, this began an agonizing period of waiting. Months passed, then more months. Competency hearings came and went. Each time they hoped to hear that proceedings could finally move forward. Eventually, after treatment, Holloway was deemed competent. The case could proceed. The family breathed a tentative sigh of relief, but then came a bigger complication, one that would reach the Illinois Supreme Court. Prosecutors wanted to pursue the harshest possible sentence, natural life imprisonment, meaning Holloway would never be released. Under Illinois law, natural life sentences are reserved for the most heinous crimes, including multiple murders. The prosecution's theory was clear. Holloway had committed 2 murders, Liese and her unborn child. Therefore, natural life imprisonment should be on the table. But there was a legal question that had never been definitively answered in Illinois. For the purposes of sentencing enhancements based on multiple murders, does an unborn child count as a separate victim? The case went to the Illinois Supreme Court. This wasn't about whether killing an unborn child is a crime. Illinois law clearly states it is. The question was narrower. For sentencing purposes, under the specific statutes governing natural life imprisonment, does an unborn child constitute a second murder victim? In their ruling, the Supreme Court said no. This wasn't a statement about the moral value of unborn life. It was a technical interpretation of how sentencing statutes are written. The court noted that the legislature could change the law to explicitly include unborn children in multiple murder sentencing enhancements. But as written, the statutes didn't support that interpretation. This ruling had massive implications for Holloway's case. Natural life imprisonment was now off the table. The maximum sentence available became 60 years, 30 years for each count of first-degree murder, to be served consecutively. Faced with this new reality, prosecutors made a strategic decision. Rather than go to trial, they offered a plea deal. Holloway would plead guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and intentional homicide of an unborn child and receive the maximum sentence of 60 years. Why would prosecutors offer a deal when they had strong evidence? Several reasons made this the pragmatic choice. First, it guaranteed a conviction. No matter how strong the evidence, trials carry risk. Juries are unpredictable. One holdout juror means a mistrial. An appeals court could overturn a conviction on technical grounds. Second, it spared the family the trauma of a trial. Heidi wouldn't have to sit through days or weeks of testimony, seeing crime scene photos, hearing details about her daughter's final moments, watching Holloway's defense team try to create doubt or minimize his culpability. Third, it avoided years of appeals. Even after a conviction, defendants in murder cases have the right to appeal. That process can take years, sometimes decades. A guilty plea with a maximum sentence dramatically reduces appeal opportunities. Fourth, after the Supreme Court ruling, 60 years was the best possible outcome. There was no longer any path to a natural life sentence. Taking the deal meant getting the maximum punishment available. Most importantly, the family supported it. They'd already waited nearly 3 years. They wanted closure. They wanted Holloway in prison. They wanted to stop reliving June 9, 2022 every time there was a court hearing. Holloway accepted the plea. He would plead guilty, receive 60 years, and the case would finally end. After 32 months of waiting, there would be a sentencing hearing. January 17, 2025. The courtroom was packed. Family members, friends, community members who'd followed the case, media representatives, and the usual courthouse personnel all gathered to witness the conclusion of a case that had stretched across 3 years. Deundrea Holloway was led in, wearing an orange jumpsuit and restraints. He sat at the defense table, expressionless. Judge Sarah Smith reviewed the plea agreement. She asked Holloway if he understood he was giving up his right to a trial. He said yes. She asked if anyone had forced or coerced him into the plea. He said no. She asked if he understood the sentence he would receive. He said yes. The judge then asked if anyone wished to make a statement before sentencing. Heidi Noel stood. She prepared a victim impact statement, a chance to tell the court in her own words what had been taken from her. She spoke about Liese as a child, as a teenager, as a young woman finding her way. She talked about the excitement when Liese told her she was pregnant, the joy of planning a baby shower, the anticipation of becoming a grandmother. She described June 9, 2022. The calls that went unanswered, the drive to the apartment, the scene she walked into, the moment her life split into before and after. She told the court about the baby shower invitations that arrived in mailboxes after Liese's death, about the nursery she had to dismantle, about the due date in late July that passed without a baby, about holidays without her daughter, about a granddaughter she'll never know. Liese Dodd's death wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern that plays out across the country every day. Intimate partner violence escalating to homicide. In 2022, the same year Liese died, the Alive organization, a domestic violence resource serving the Alton region, reported 330 high-risk domestic violence referrals. These weren't minor disputes. These were cases severe enough that law enforcement flagged them as situations where someone's life was in imminent danger. Think about that number. 330 cases in one region in 1 year where someone was at risk of being killed by an intimate partner. Each one represents a person like Liese, someone trying to leave, someone trapped in a cycle of violence, someone whose abuser was unwilling to let them go. Nationally, intimate partner violence accounts for approximately 20% of all homicides of women. Pregnancy increases that risk significantly. In the days after Liese's death, her community rallied. A GoFundMe campaign raised nearly $16,000 to help Heidi with funeral expenses and other costs associated with sudden, violent loss. When the legal process finally concluded, Heidi made a decision that spoke to who she and Liese were. Rather than keep all the donated funds, she made two significant donations. $5,000 went to the Oasis Women's Center, an organization that provides shelter, resources, and support for domestic violence survivors in the region. $2,000 went to Riverbend Humane Society because Liese had loved animals and would have wanted to help them. Even in the depths of grief, Heidi chose to help others, to ensure that Liese's death might, in some small way, protect other women from the same fate. Deundrea Holloway, inmate number assigned upon entry to the Illinois Department of Corrections, currently resides in a maximum security facility where he will remain for decades. He will be 86 years old before he's eligible for parole review. Prosecutors believe he will die in prison. Heidi Noel continues to live in the Alton area. She's turned her grief into advocacy, speaking about domestic violence and the importance of recognizing warning signs. Somewhere there's a box of baby shower invitations that were never used, a nursery's worth of items donated to charity, photos of a young woman who never got to hold her daughter. The case file for People v. Deundrea Holloway is now closed. But for those who loved Liese, the sentence they're serving, the one measured in permanent absence, continues every single day.